Many environmentalists have long resisted policy initiatives that focus on improving our ability to adapt to a changing climate. The fear has been that such efforts would distract attention from proposals to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions. Thankfully, that dynamic is finally changing as governments and advocacy groups have increasingly accepted the fact that some degree of climate change is inevitable, and that consequently the primary goal of climate policy should be to reduce harms to human welfare and the environment rather than focusing exclusively on the long-term goals of emissions reductions. The Rio Declaration from the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development states, in view of different contributions to global environmental degradation, states have common but different shared responsibilities. The developed countries acknowledge the responsibility that they bear in the international pursuit of sustainable development, in view of the pressures their societies place on the global environment and of the technologies and financial resources they command.
Many of the proposals for adaptation to climate change require further extensive release of greenhouse gases. This means that although the aim is to help, adaptation efforts will only make climate change worse. We also shouldn't forget that it is impossible to focus on both the adaptation and the fight against climate change. The more aid is directed toward adaptation, the smaller chance we have to fight climate change and reduce further damage. Thus, climate change's effects are likely to be more severe and require extreme and more expensive forms of adaptation. High responsibility for combating climate change should not be related in any way to how developed the country is. On the contrary, countries with high emissions should be the ones that have more responsibility and contribute to combating climate change more. However, the most important part of the problem is the fact that the world hasn't come to an agreement and more time and energy seems to go in the wrong direction, which is to determine the countries to blame for the current situation. This leaves poor countries waiting for help and debating the issue instead of taking things into their own hands.
Adaptation to climate change is in many ways a burden, but it also holds many opportunities. Developed nations should see aid for adaptation as a way to invest in new opportunities that may arise in developing economies as a result of climate change. Such opportunities could include the potential to grow new lucrative crops in new climate where rain may begin falling more or less frequently, which has advantages in certain climates and for certain crops. This can create jobs in developing countries, which is already an objective of developing countries, but it requires aid and investments of know-how that only developed countries can commit. Developing countries have received less than 10% of the money promised by rich countries to help them adapt to global warming. The failure is fostering deep distrust between rich and poor nations and is seriously undermining key negotiations on the global climate deal. The analysis has found that the poorest countries have received the least help from the rich. The analysis, based on data collected by the Independent Overseas Development Institute in London and confirmed by the UN, has also found that Africa, the poorest continent, has received less than 12% of all the climate fund money spent in the last 4 years. It can take poor countries more than 3 years to access money. Most of the money promised for climate change comes out of official aid budgets, leaving less for health, education, and poverty action.
There was a massive economics crisis in 2009 and 2010, considered by economists to be the worst crisis since the Great Depression. The International Monetary Fund estimated that large US and European banks lost more than $1 trillion in toxic assets and from bad loans from January 2007 to September 2009, and Arab banks reported losses of nearly $4 billion since the onset of the global financial crisis. Some analysts even say that the world is going through a period of deglobalization and protectionism after years of increasing economic integration. Contributing significant amounts of climate aid to poor countries during such times of crisis is extremely difficult for any state or country. The call on the part of the resolution to increase climate adaptation aid must be tempered by these limitations. Climate change is not an accurate subject, and any long-term effects are very hard to predict. There has even been the question whether it will actually occur at all, or whether it will be a net negative for humanity and for poor assumption that they will be hit hard by the effect. A more effective approach and use of money is most likely waiting and seeing the effect, if any, first. Climate aid should be directed only at responding to humanitarian crises that may result from climate change.